When the last thing Alberta needs is increased spending and borrowing after 4 major credit downgrades, the NDP have now borrowed another $14 billion. On June 10th, 2 orders under the Financial Administration Act were approved by the government. One was for $3.5 billion, the next for $10.5 billion to cover new government spending. And right on time, the Canadian Taxpayers Federation was here in Calgary touring with the debt clock. I caught up with Alberta Director Paige McPherson to chat about debt levels in the province. Here, she compares the NDP's $14 billion borrow with massive family credit card debts and financial burden.
When the government decides to borrow billions and billions of dollars, another $14 billion that we just saw, it's the same thing as if you are a family and you decide to put a massive amount of money on your credit card, except for that families generally have some sort of a plan to pay that off. Our government has completely abandoned their plans to balance the budget, and instead they're just racking up that debt. And the issue here in Alberta is that in 2004, we eliminated our debt. Premier Ralph Klein at that time completely eliminated our debt. We were starting from such a better starting point than so many other provinces, and yet since then we've been digging ourselves deeper and deeper into the debt hole, and this government is really fast and furiously digging deeper into that debt hole, and that's going to be a massive burden that we're going to shift onto the backs of future generations.
This $14 billion loan is the biggest in Alberta's history, and it doesn't seem to faze the NDP as they continue to drive the province into record levels of debt. I also talked to Paige about some of the measures that could be taken to limit the debt load here.
In Alberta, our government employee salaries are some of the highest in the country. They're completely out of whack with the national average, and the government really is refusing to address that. They're doing little drop-in-the-bucket moves, like saying that they're going to have some kind of a salary freeze, when really we're starting out up here. We need to bring it back at least to the national average, and then we would be looking at some pretty significant spending reductions. So that's one place the government could look.
Of course, the NDP have increased public sector jobs and wages account for the largest portion of the budget. Actually, overspending on public salaries is one of the main contributors to budgets in the red. And the government needs to be held to account for wasteful spending. Derek Fildebrandt, former Alberta director for the CTF and now Wildrose MLA for Strathmore-Brooks, plus finance critic, was also there at the debt clock stop, and I asked him what the Wildrose Party is prepared to do about the NDP's out-of-control borrowing and spending.
Wildrose is going to hold their feet to the fire on this one. This is not the kind of thing we can just shrug our shoulders and let them get away with. At the end of the day, they're a majority government, and they're going to do whatever they want. But all the opposition can do is give them hell and make them pay for every inch of it. And we're going to have to propose a plan going into the next election to stop this kind of madness, because this is madness. And we're going to have to be very serious with Albertans. We're going to have to level with them. And it might be a bit like Buckley's, because the medicine is going to be hard. But we're going to have to be honest with Albertans about what's needed to fix this.
The NDP are like out-of-control teenagers with an all-access pass to their parents' credit cards. Even though what Albertans need the most is for them to cut spending wherever they can, they continue to borrow. The province is now over $21 billion in debt. That means every man, woman, and child owes about $22,000 each. Those numbers are staggering, and it looks like there's no end in sight for NDP spending and borrowing. For the Rebel.media, I'm Holly Nicholas.
Thanks for watching. Click here to never miss a Rebel update. Want even more of the Rebel? Well, click here to become a premium member.